Hello, everyone. Today, we dive deep into a story that's shaking the very foundations of our union, a clash that's not just about two political figures, but about who gets to shape our future. Picture this: on one side, former President Trump deploying 2-0 National Guard troops to Los Angeles with a bold assertion of federal authority. On the other, Governor Gavin Newsom answering with a lawsuit, calling the move illegal and immoral, and vowing to defend democratic values and states' rights. Some leaders command the room by raising their voice. Others lead by simply standing firm in the truth they believe in. And in America today, we are seeing two very different kinds of leadership clash, not just on TV, not just in press conferences, but in the very heartbeat of the nation. Donald Trump is known for making bold moves, for speaking loud, acting fast, and pushing boundaries. For many of his supporters, that's strength, that's power, that's leadership. When he sent thousands of National Guard troops to Los Angeles during civil unrest, some saw it as a necessary step to restore order. A man taking charge, a man doing what needs to be done, no matter how loud the protests become. For others, it felt like a threat, an overreach, a dangerous play with the power of the presidency. It stirred fear, not safety. Then there's Gavin Newsom. California's governor chose a different path. He didn't shout back. He filed a lawsuit. He didn't send troops. He sent a message that says leadership doesn't always mean having the loudest voice in the room. Sometimes it's about listening to the people, listening to the Constitution, listening to the quiet cry of those who are afraid. For Newsom, the answer wasn't more force. It was more accountability. More dialogue, more democracy. Now the world watches as these two men, so different in tone, in method, in conviction, draw their lines in the sand, and we're left to ask ourselves, which kind of leadership truly leads us forward? Because leadership is more than headlines. It's more than declarations. It's about presence. It's about purpose. And when leaders clash, it's not just about policy. It's about identity, who we are as a people, who we trust, and who we're becoming. Trump speaks to those who feel unheard, left behind, overlooked by political elites. He promises strength. He offers certainty. He doesn't apologize for what he believes. But sometimes, strength without compassion can become control. Certainty without humility can become blindness. And leadership without balance can shake the very foundations it was meant to protect. Newsom speaks to those who fear that democracy is slipping away. To those who believe the law is sacred, he reminds people that process matters, that justice matters, that every move made by a leader must be measured not just by its result, but by its respect for people. But sometimes, caution can look like weakness, patience can be misunderstood, and choosing the long road can seem like standing still. That's the tension we're living in, a battle not just of ideologies, but of approach. One fights with presence, the other fights with process. One shows force, the other shows restraint, and somewhere in between is the heartbeat of a nation still deciding what kind of leadership it needs. But here's the truth. No one style can fix everything. No one method works for every moment. There are times we need boldness. There are times we need reflection. There are moments when silence is strength, and others when action is required. And maybe, just maybe, this clash is revealing something we've forgotten, that leadership isn't supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to serve. It's not supposed to divide. It's supposed to decide. And not for the sake of power, but for the good of the people. It's easy to take sides, to pick a name, wear a color, and raise a flag. But the real work isn't in choosing a person. It's in choosing the values behind them. What kind of America do we want? Do we want one that moves fast and hits hard, or one that moves carefully and listens long? Do we need a voice that commands, or a heart that understands? The answer isn't simple. And maybe it shouldn't be, because democracy isn't a straight line. It's a conversation, a balancing act, a constant searching for the leadership that sees people, not just problems, that leads with courage but also with care. So, when we look at Trump and Newsom, let's look deeper, not just at what they do, but why they do it. Let's ask what kind of leader we would follow, not just in the spotlight, but in the quiet moments. When no one's watching, when the cameras are off, when decisions are made not for fame, but for the future, because at the end of the day, true leadership doesn't just fight to be right, it fights for what's right. And that kind of leadership, that's the kind that writes history, that shapes hearts, that changes nations, and maybe that's the kind we've been searching for all along. Every nation has a dream, a picture in its heart of what it hopes to become. And for America, that dream has always been about freedom, opportunity, and unity. But today, more than ever, that dream feels like it's being pulled in two different directions. Not just by political parties, not just by leaders, but by two completely different visions of what the future should look like. On one side, there's a call for order, for strength, for one voice guiding the nation with firm hands and fast decisions. It's a vision where the federal government takes charge, where decisions are made quickly, and where power is centralized to ensure that no challenge goes unanswered. To some, that feels like safety, like stability, like someone finally standing up and saying, "Enough, let me take it from here." But on the other side, there's a different voice rising, one that believes in the power of the people. One that says no single leader should decide everything, that real change doesn't come from the top alone. It starts from the bottom, from the homes and hearts of every citizen. This vision fights for a democracy that listens. That includes, that respects the voices of every state, every city, every street. Both sides say they want what's best for America, but their definitions of best couldn't be more different. It's not just about who sits in the White House. It's about who holds the pen when America writes its next chapter. Is it the president or the people? Is it Washington, D.C., or every single American who still believes that their voice matters? In moments like these, we're not just choosing policies, we're choosing identity. Are we a nation that moves as one, under one command, or are we a collection of voices, diverse but united by shared purpose? One vision builds fast, takes action, and sets direction. The other listens deep, invites dialogue, and builds from the ground up. And there's tension in that, because both paths offer something important, but both come with a cost. A strong, centralized future may deliver speed and efficiency, but it risks forgetting the small voices, the ones that don't scream for attention but still deserve to be heard. A decentralized, community-led vision honors every voice, but sometimes struggles to act quickly when crisis hits. So where do we go from here? Maybe the answer isn't in choosing one and discarding the other. Maybe the real future of America lives in balance, in a future where leadership is bold but accountable, where decisions are strong but rooted in justice, where federal power serves, not controls, and where local voices are empowered, not ignored. It's easy to lose hope when we see division, when we hear leaders talk past each other instead of to each other, when it feels like every choice comes with a fight. But maybe this moment isn't the end of America's dream. Maybe it's the start of a new chapter, one where we pause, reflect, and reimagine who we want to be. Because destiny isn't just written by politicians. It's written by parents who teach their children to stand up for what's right, by teachers who open minds, by workers who show up every day believing their small part matters. That's where the future is born, not in the power of the few, but in the faith of the many. America doesn't need a perfect leader. It needs a people willing to care, to choose unity over comfort, conviction over popularity, truth over fear. This nation has always been at its strongest when its people believed, not just in a government, but in each other. And that's the future that still calls, a future where we are not divided by color, class, or party, but connected by purpose. So, when we ask who decides America's destiny, maybe the better question is, are we ready to take part in shaping it, not by watching from the sidelines, but by showing up, with courage, with kindness, and with the unshakable belief that the best is yet to come? Because America's future isn't something we wait for, it's something we build together, one heart, one home, one hope at a time. There are moments in history when silence is not an option. When laws are more than just words on paper, and when the Constitution becomes more than just a framed document hanging in a courtroom, it becomes a shield, a compass, a reminder that leadership must always answer to something higher than power. It must answer to principle. That's exactly where America finds itself today, in the middle of a test, not just of leadership, but of law, not just of politics, but of the very foundation that holds the country together. When a former president sends National Guard troops to Los Angeles without clear state approval, without transparent justification, it doesn't just trigger political debate, it awakens a legal storm. And when a state governor stands up and says, "This is illegal," it's not just defiance, it's a defense of the rule of law, because at the heart of this confrontation lies a deeper question: who has the right to decide? The Constitution was written to create balance, not just between branches of government, but between the federal system and the individual states. It's not a document of convenience, it's a contract of accountability. And when one part of that contract is broken or ignored, it shakes the integrity of the whole. This is not just about one order or one lawsuit. It's about the legal boundaries that protect every American, boundaries that make sure no leader, no matter how powerful, can act without being questioned. No matter how urgent the moment feels, the law must still matter. That's the promise of democracy, that's the foundation of freedom, but the real danger isn't in the action alone, it's in what we normalize. When laws are bent quietly, slowly, over time, we stop noticing. And when we stop noticing, we start losing the very rights we thought were secure. That's how democracy doesn't die in one loud moment. It fades in small, silent compromises. Filing a lawsuit may not look dramatic. It may not grab headlines like a protest or a military display, but make no mistake, it's a powerful move, because it sends a message: we will not let power go unchecked. We will not let legal boundaries be erased for political convenience. We will ask the hard questions, even when it's unpopular, even when it's risky. That's the beauty of the legal system when it's respected. It becomes a voice for those who can't speak up, a defense for those who are vulnerable, and a standard that even the highest leaders must answer to, because what's at stake here is bigger than a political clash. It's the question of whether the Constitution still means what it meant when it was written. Do we still believe that laws apply to everyone? Do we still believe that no one is above the rules? Or have we allowed personalities to replace principles? Every decision made in this moment will echo into the future, and not just for lawyers or politicians, but for every citizen, because if one leader can send troops where they're not legally allowed, what stops another from doing worse? If one state's voice can be ignored, how long before others are silenced too? This isn't about choosing sides. It's about choosing what's right. And what's right is making sure that every power is checked, every law is honored, and every citizen's rights are protected, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Legal battles may seem slow. They may feel frustrating, but they're one of the last remaining tools that allow democracy to defend itself. They allow the truth to be tested, and the law to be clarified, not just interpreted by one side. In the end, history doesn't only remember those who spoke loud, it remembers those who stood firm, those who defended the Constitution not just with speeches, but with action, with patience, with wisdom. So let this be a reminder to all of us: the law is not a weapon for the powerful, it is a refuge for the people, and if we lose our respect for it, we risk losing the very freedom it was designed to protect. Because when the Constitution is under threat, it's not just a political issue, it's a personal one. It's about every right we hold dear, every freedom we enjoy, every protection we take for granted. Some battles are fought with laws, others with armies, but the most powerful battles, the ones that shape how we think, how we feel, and how we choose, are fought with stories, because stories define meaning. They tell us who the hero is, who the villain is, what's at stake, and what matters most. And right now in America, there are two very different stories being told, two very different versions of truth, two leaders, two perspectives, and one nation caught in the middle, trying to figure out which narrative to believe. On one hand, you have a story built on strength, a leader who steps into the spotlight with boldness, refusing to back down. He tells a tale of chaos in the streets, of lawlessness, of a nation under siege, and in that story he is the protector, the one willing to take action when others hesitate. He frames his decisions as necessary, his actions as brave, and his voice as the only one loud enough to cut through the noise. For his supporters, that story is not just believable, it's comforting. Because in a world full of uncertainty, that kind of clarity feels like safety, but there's another story, one told with a softer tone, but no less conviction. In this story, leadership means listening. It means respecting boundaries. It means honoring institutions even when it would be easier not to. The hero of this story doesn't shout. He challenges through legal action, through calm reasoning, through standing on principles that many believe are being forgotten. And for his followers, this story is a reminder that true strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's found in the quiet commitment to do what's right. In these two stories, they aren't just narratives. They're worldviews. They shape how people see each other, how they vote, how they pray, how they raise their children, because stories have the power to humanize, or to divide, to inspire unity, or to fuel fear. And in times like these, whoever controls the narrative often controls the direction of the country. That's why we have to be careful, because when stories are told with half-truths or manipulated for power, they can turn people against each other. They can make enemies out of neighbors. They can make you doubt what you know in your heart to be true. But when stories are honest, when they are rooted in facts, in values, in compassion, they can open eyes. They can heal. They can lift a nation that feels tired and torn. The danger comes when we stop asking questions, when we listen to only one voice, when we choose a narrative because it makes us feel good, not because it's grounded in truth. That's when stories stop shaping us and start controlling us. Both Trump and Newsom are telling stories, but the power doesn't lie in their words alone. It lies in how we respond. Do we blindly follow? Or do we pause, think, and discern, because truth is not always in the headline? Sometimes it's hidden in the nuance, in the context, in the quiet details that no one's talking about, and if we're not careful, we'll miss it. Narratives can be used to justify anything, deploying troops, filing lawsuits, accusing, defending, but at the core of every narrative is a motive, and the motive matters. Is it to protect people, or to protect power? Is it to serve or to be seen? Those are the questions we must ask, not just of our leaders, but of ourselves. And let's not forget, we all carry our own narratives too, stories we tell ourselves about what's possible, what's broken, and what's worth fighting for. If we want a better future, we have to start with better stories, stories that don't label each other as enemies, stories that believe in redemption, in growth, in unity beyond politics, because the story of a nation isn't written by one man or one moment. It's written every day by people who choose hope over fear, courage over comfort, and truth over convenience. So yes, the power of narrative is real and it's strong, but the greatest story is still being written. And the pen is not just in the hands of those on stage, it's in ours. We decide what story lives on, what message reaches the next generation, what kind of nation we become. Let it be one of truth, of grace, of resilience, and most of all of love, loud enough to break through the noise. Some lines are drawn on a map, others are drawn in the heart. For as long as America has existed, one question has echoed louder than the rest. Who really gets to decide? Is it the federal government in Washington? Or is it the leaders elected by each state, standing close to the people they serve? It's a debate that goes far deeper than politics. It touches on freedom, identity, and how much control one nation should ever have over its parts. And today, in the middle of national tension, that debate has come roaring back, not in textbooks or quiet discussions, but in the bold, visible clash between those who hold federal power and those who protect state rights. When a federal decision reaches into the streets of a state, sending troops, overriding local judgment, or pushing actions without consent, it sends more than a message. It challenges the very fabric of a democracy built on balance. Because America was never designed to be ruled by one voice alone, it was built on the idea that states matter, that communities matter, that no one, not even the highest office in the land, can take away the right of local leaders to lead. But power has a way of testing that principle. It stretches, pushes, and sometimes breaks the rules when urgency is used as an excuse. When unrest shakes a city or voices cry out in protest, the response from federal authority can either be protection or control. The difference is subtle, but the impact is everything. In California, when a federal leader sends troops without clear state approval, it's not just about security, it's about sovereignty. It's about asking, do we still honor the voice of the state? Because a governor elected by millions should not be silenced by a signature made in Washington, and when that governor pushes back, not with violence, but with law, it becomes a stand for something more than pride. It becomes a defense of the balance the Constitution promises, a balance that says no matter how strong the central government becomes, the states will always have the right to speak for themselves. This is not rebellion. This is responsibility, because the purpose of having both federal and state powers was never to create conflict. It was to create accountability. The system was designed so no one could dominate, so every voice had weight. So every decision could be tested, debated, and refined, not dictated. But that only works when leaders respect the limits of their role, when federal authority remembers that it exists to serve, not to override. And when state leadership is willing to stand, not in anger, but in duty, for the rights it was given to protect. And here's the truth that's hard to say out loud. Sometimes good intentions can still cross the line. Sometimes trying to solve a crisis quickly can mean ignoring the people closest to it, but speed should never replace consent, and action should never erase respect. Because when states lose their voice, people lose theirs too. This is bigger than California, bigger than one decision. It's about the future of how this country governs itself, about whether power will stay balanced, or if it will tip so far in one direction that we forget the promise of shared leadership. There's wisdom in local leadership, in voices that know the streets, feel the pulse of the people, and understand the culture of their own backyard. And while federal authority can offer support, it must never assume superiority. The moment it does, the foundation starts to crack. So, what does it mean to lead in this moment? It means choosing humility over dominance, partnership over pressure, listening over commanding, because when the federal government and the states walk hand in hand, the nation becomes stronger. But when they pull in opposite directions, the people suffer. This isn't about choosing sides. It's about choosing structure, choosing to preserve the design of a nation that believed every state had something valuable to contribute, not just to follow, but to lead. And if that's still true, if that dream still matters, then we must protect it. We must speak up for it. We must remember that the greatest power any leader can show is the ability to share it, because leadership that respects boundaries is leadership that builds trust. And a nation that honors every part of itself becomes a nation that stands whole, even in the storm. That's not just politics, that's principle, and principles are always worth protecting. So, who decides America's destiny? It begins with us. Whether we lean toward strong federal authority or strengthen local voices, the future is shaped by our choices. As voters, community members, and citizens, our questions matter.